We laugh. We cry. We learn. But really, what doesn't kill you makes you better at managing clients and everyone. I'm Morgan Friedman, and this is Client Horror Stories.
Hey everyone, I'm excited to be here on this Tuesday afternoon for another episode of Client Horror Stories with Matthew Fornaro today. How are you doing, Matthew?
I'm great, Morgan. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm excited to hear your story. I have my drink in hand and I'm ready to go. Tell us about your best client horror story.
All right. Well, I've got my drink too. I think I need something a little bit stronger than that. As you know, I've been a attorney for over 21 years, so I've seen some really strange stuff over the course of my career that would make your toes curl, that would keep you up at night, that would make you sweat. And then some of the stuff I've seen that's so egregious and whatever is like routine now, so it doesn't really affect me, whereas another person will be like, oh my God, how can you deal with that? However, with that being said, there is one matter that sticks out to me that's pretty egregious, that we're going to talk about today. So without further ado, as you know, or as you may not know, most of my focus is on business law. So I try to stay in my own lane and not go outside of that lane, but sometimes I do. One of the things I, am proficient at, I think, is real estate litigation. So I had a matter about 4 or 5 years ago now that came in that was a real estate litigation matter. Now, ordinarily, like I said, I focus on business litigation, but I also do real estate litigation. So I'm like, okay, no problem. So the issue was, and again, obviously, as you know on your show, Morgan, we changed the names, the dates, the locations to hide the innocent.
Exactly.
There are no innocent people in this story, but, so it's going to be a little distorted, but bear with me. All right. So this family comes in where the daughter is the authoritarian control figure of her elderly parents. Okay. She speaks for them. She makes all the moves for them. She has the power of attorney over them. You don't talk to them. You talk to her regarding the old people. Okay. For lack of a better term.
Okay.
So they came into this thing with a deal where they lived in a gated community in Naples. It's a very nice area of Florida. So they lived in a gated community in a house that they all, I should say the parents were renting, and the daughter claims she doesn't live at, but she lives there for all intents and purposes. So they made a deal with their elderly neighbor across the street, who I guess is even older than the parents, where this guy had, a single family home. He's an old guy, like in his 80s or whatever.
Okay.
And he agreed to, I guess, let them take over his house, and he would stay there and they would perform the upkeep and the sweat equity. And then he would eventually sell them that house at a lower market price than it would otherwise be worth. And then they can leave their rental and then go to their house that they have been upkeeping, and the old guy would move out. So that was the deal. Now, as you may or may not know,
I just want to repeat the deal back just to make sure I and the viewers understood it, because it's already a bit convoluted.
Yeah.
Older couple and their daughter living in a house, and they made a deal with the person across the street that they could renovate, upkeep, and improve the house. And then eventually, because they've improved the house so much, they could then at some point buy the house, but at a lower than market value. Is that right?
Yes, that is right. As convoluted as that sounds, okay? You're paying attention, okay? Now,
Gold star.
Now, the issues that we're going to run into are many, but the first is that, as you may or may not know, at least in Florida and for most of the country and most of the organized world, you can't buy and sell real estate without a written contract. So they never had a written contract. They had
It was all verbal, like handshake.
all verbal. Okay, all verbal. All right. So they had.
It sounds like not Naples, Florida, Naples, Italy, with the mafia.
You would even Naples, Italy wouldn't touch this one. So no, you take it. So okay, so they never had a signed contract. They had what the daughter, who fancies herself some kind of deal maker, had on a piece of notebook paper. They had what was called a term sheet. Okay. And I hate that term. I hate using that term because it's so stupid, because it doesn't mean anything. But they used a term sheet, and they had, like, I would say under 20 words written on this piece of paper that said, like, we'll rent house, we'll then buy house for under market value. And then it was signed by the old people, not the daughter, the old people, but not the owner of the house who they were going to buy it from. Okay.
Which is the key person.
Yes, so that's the person you want to have it do whatever. He never signed it. So lo and behold, they go ahead and they upkeep the property. Like, they fix a roof repair, they fix the pool, because again, it's a nice 3,000 square foot house in Naples, has 4 bedrooms, a pool, whatever, gated community. So they go ahead and do all that stuff. They pay for the landscaping. They do all this stuff. And then their lease on the house across the street is about to run out. So that's like the impetus for them to now buy the house and move across the street. So the problem is they still don't have a contract. They still, don't have a closing date or anything else. So they go ahead and they kind of tell the guy, the old man who owns the house, that this deal is going forward. We're going to move in by the end of our lease term, and you better be ready. And so apparently the old guy was, I guess kind of a little bit out of it, not senile, but not really whatever. And he had a son who's a businessman in another part of the country, who's not really estranged, but he kind of doesn't really keep close tabs on his father. So his son came down to visit him, and this plan was revealed to the son. And the son is like, what the hell are you doing, Dad? What is going on here? You can't sell to these people. You don't have a contract. You don't have any deal, whatever. Okay. At the same time, the buyers just use the term the buyers, they went to a title agent and they got all the title work done and all the stuff ready for the sale. And so they arbitrarily made up a sale date, and with no sales contract, by the way, just all the title work done and the term sheet that was unsigned. And
do they make up a price as well?
Yeah, they made up a price, and that was under the market value that they claimed that the old man agreed to. And then they're ready to have this closing on this sale. And then the old man's son steps in and says,
before you go on, I just need to interrupt. This almost stretches the bounds of credibility. Like, it's so crazy. But what makes me believe it, other than you being trustworthy and you not being here if you were just inventing this, is I've had ex-girlfriends long ago who literally invented relationships with me, and I've known people who just invent wild stories about other people and their relationship in their head. And this is it feels like it's that same sort of idiosyncrasy, but at a much, much bigger level.
Yeah. So then, well, don't worry, we're going to add some more layers to it to make it even more incredible.
Oh my goodness.
So they allegedly agree on a sale price, but there's no confirmation that the seller, the old guy, agreed on the sale price or whatever. So one of the other factors is that this house is in an HOA. Okay. Now, one of the things you need to buy and sell a house in the HOA is the HOA's written approval. Okay. Guess what? They didn't have it. While the buyers were renters in the community, and this comes back to something I said initially, the daughter really lived there, but quote unquote didn't live there. Okay. So the daughter is there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And she claims she doesn't live there. She lives in another city when someone asks her, but she really lives at the property.
But is insofar as you know, is the reason why she did that? Like,
yeah,
you're gonna the HOA.
You're gonna hear why.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
Because she was an unapproved tenant at the property. Again, the HOA needs to approve all tenants as well.
Yes.
So she was never approved. She was, for lack of a better term, a troublemaker. She would get in fights with other neighbors. She would be like a condo commando around the community, even though she was not even technically a renter in the community, and caused a lot of problems. So the association said to them tacitly, if this deal ever goes through and you try to seek our written approval, we're never going to approve you for the sale because of your daughter, unless your daughter guarantees that she's not going to quote unquote take care of you or stop by or anything. It's unless your daughter guarantees she's not going to live with you, we're not going to approve the sale. All right. So with that in mind, we go back to the alleged sale date of the property. So the title work's done, everything's done, the price is there, and they get ready to have the closing, and the seller, old guy, doesn't show up. He has a letter sent out from his son, who, again, remember, is the estranged son who came down to visit. He has his attorney come down and send out a letter saying, you all, for lack of a better term, I need some brevity here. All you people are crazy. Okay. You've taken advantage of this old man. This old man never agreed to sell you anything. I don't know what you've been doing at this property, but you are banned from the property forever. You're not to come over anymore. You're not to caretake it. You're not to renovate it. You're done. And we'll figure out everything else later. Okay. So then that's when I become involved in the case. So one of my very good referral sources is the attorney who did the preliminary title work in this case. Okay. Very good referral source of mine. Okay. Yes. Never failed me in several years of referring me cases. Very respected in the community, very reputable,
great
stand-up guy. Okay. So for some reason, he was bamboozled by these buyers into thinking that they were like straight and narrow people and that this daughter didn't really have anything to do with it. It was just this old couple who's going to buy a house from another old person. So he knew, my referral source knew that I'm the litigation guy and this is going to require litigation. So he sends me the clients. Okay. And this is where I'm introduced to the daughter, and the daughter as the overlord of the parents with her power of attorney, and you are to speak to me, not my parents, but include them on all emails and include them in all the stuff, but I speak for everyone. Here's my power of attorney, etc. Okay. So I'm like, well, you may have a problem because, generally speaking, when you buy a house, you have a sales contract and you don't. And, I understand you have your term sheet, which is what you're going to say is the unexecuted sales contract. But, without his signature, you're limited to your remedies. So what I did was I crafted a lawsuit that under Florida law, totally cognizable, I had to really use my brain to come up with this lawsuit, to come up with counts for like betterment, which is a cause of action when you go and you improve real property and then the owner doesn't pay you back. So, because they really did do these upgrades and upkeep and stuff. So betterment. We sought a trust for the property because they put money into the property that was unaccounted for. And so we said that the property should be held in trust. We sought an accounting, which is a remedy where you want to show where all the money that went into a deal or a transaction or a business went. So we wanted to see where all the money went. And then we treated the term sheet as a precursor to a real sales contract. So obviously we admitted that the term sheet was not the end contract in and of itself, but it was a promise to enter into a contract. So in Florida, we have a remedy that's called specific performance, which makes you perform under a contract. So obviously we didn't have a sales contract, but we had a agreement to enter into an agreement. And so that's what we sought to enforce, was the agreement that the seller was going to enter into a sales contract for the alleged agreed upon amount of money, whatever.
Interesting. I have a question before you go on.
Sure.
From the backstory that you just gave us before you showed up, it sounds like the daughter is a little bit crazy. Did you realize at this point that she was like off the knocker?
Here's the Morgan. You're slightly ahead of the game. We're going to get there in a second. Okay. I'm going to give you a side story right after this next thing to tell you how we start figuring out that the daughter's a little touched in the head. Okay. So, all right. So I come up with these brilliant, totally cognizable, totally above board legal theories, which are totally whatever. At the same time, the old man and his son file a lawsuit right before we file our lawsuit against the couple and the daughter, seeking what's called ejectment and unlawful detainer, which is causes of action for when someone occupies a property and isn't really a tenant, but is somehow at your property and you want them off. So even though they were off the property, the sellers wanted a legal adjudication that they were to be off the property and not come back. Okay. So they filed that lawsuit. I simultaneously then filed a counterclaim based on what I just told you. Okay. And so it's all one giant lawsuit. Okay.
Yes.
So here's where we start talking about the daughter. Okay. So the daughter started out what we will agree upon the term normal. Okay. What you think that means in parlance, everyday conversation is normal. Okay. As this situation went on that I told you about and came to an initial focus point at the filing of these lawsuits, the daughter started drastically going into left field. And here's how. Okay. The daughter would send me legal theories that she thought I should be using in various arguments. The daughter would then send me stream of consciousness emails about just her thoughts in general on things. Just because at all hours of the night, I'd wake up.
Things related to the lawsuit or just like?
Related to the lawsuit or something in life that then relates to the lawsuit, or a parable or a story that relates to the lawsuit. And then she would like say, oh, the brilliant idea coming up with this, brilliant idea. So I'm like, this person's a little weird and it's getting weirder, but I'm like, it's kind of outside the bounds of, some of my clients, I don't want to misspeak about them, but are a little peculiar. This was getting weirder by the moment. So she would start emailing me stuff. She would then forward me emails that the mother and the father would want me to see, but wouldn't send to me directly, but would send to her to send to me. And then I would have to reply to all three of them,
right?
Response to those emails. Okay. So the lawsuits are filed, and we file responding papers and stuff. And because these are what's called summary proceedings, they're set for a hearing very quickly because it deals with possession of property. It's not like some kind of other cause of action where it's whatever. And so I tell the daughter and indirectly the parents that, look, we're going to have to go to court with evidence, and you're going to have to testify in person, not via Zoom, because it's a trial. Trials are, most of the stuff now is on Zoom, but big time stuff like trials and stuff is in person. So we're going to have to go in person, and we're going to have to prove all the allegations in our counterclaim regarding your deal, what you paid, all this other stuff, whatever. So I try to make them understand that, and we get set for essentially a summary trial, and the other side is obviously ready. The other side has the old man and the son, who are both pretty cognizant, able to testify that that's not the deal, etc. We want them off the property, whatever. They even offer off the record to settle the case by giving my client some money to go away. And my clients totally poo-poo that and said they're not going to do it. And it was a pretty good offer. It was about the amount of money they spent on the property. And they just said, no, we want the property. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, here's the CYA letter explaining that all to you, whatever. So then we're gathering evidence for the summary trial. And I'm like, you have to send me the proof of everything you paid for this company, or if not for this company, for this property. Okay. So you have to send me receipts for pool repairs and receipts for roof repairs. And, if you paid the dues you paid and all that stuff, you have to send me that. So they send me some of that stuff. And then the daughter sends me in the most incomprehensible format ever of photocopying a phone, not a screenshot of a phone, but literally putting it on a photocopier of a page on a phone and hitting copy and then sending it to me.
What?
Hundreds of photocopy pages of texts
I've
between
never
her and the old guy and the old guy's son talking about this deal. And so I'm like, well, daughter, what order are these in? There's no dates on them. I need them put in an order in some kind of cognitive fashion to present. Could you maybe just upload your history to the internet and send me it that way, as opposed to, no, I don't know how to do it. I don't know what's going on. I just know how to make these copies. So she sends me these copies.
Questions for clarification. Approximately how old was the daughter?
Daughter was probably mid-40s.
Mid-40s? Oh, old enough to know better. Or
old enough to hopefully know how to upload things to the internet or whatever.
Young enough to know better. And also, these were conversations she was having with the old man and the son. What, about the settlement? So, even though you're the lawyer, just going behind.
No, it was all, yes, while I represented them still, she was still having conversations with them, not telling me about it, talking about the deal, about how much money they wanted, how much money they invested, how they were going to own the house, how they were going to do whatever, all in this thing. And I'm like, I tell the daughter, I'm like, okay, well, out of the 100 pages you sent me, there's maybe 3 that are actually germane and useful to your case, and the rest are totally nutso, like of you threatening the old man and of you threatening the son that you're going to do things to them or hurt them, or, you know, but in like a kind of passive aggressive way. And I'm like, you really don't want the court to see those text messages. So I finally weed that down to the useful ones, and then I get their bills and stuff, and I get ready to do whatever. So then I'm like, okay, well, we got to prepare for trial. This is going to be a real trial. Oh, and by the way, it was a jury trial because they demanded a jury trial. So I'm like, you're going to have to convince 6 people in Collier County.
Wait, your client demanded jury trial, or the other?
Yeah, they demanded a jury trial.
So what's funny about crazy people is they're so in their own world, they can't even recognize they're in their own world.
Yeah.
So they think they'll convince everyone that they're sane.
Yeah, so they wanted to convince 6 people in Collier County about this deal. So I'm like, okay, well, that raises the bar higher of what we need to do and how to do it. We need to stay very focused to our very refined counterclaim that I put forward.
Right.
Get rid of all your extraneous stuff and, you know, do whatever. So then as we're getting ready, the homeowner association gets wind of this. Okay. And they're like, we will never allow them ever to purchase a home in this community based on the daughter, even if the daughter agrees never to show up there or whatever. So then they come on board and they intervene in the case on the side of the old man and his son to block us from buying the house by saying that they will never approve them to buy the house. So it's a waste of everyone's time. So I'm like, you know, guys, that money that they offered you looks pretty good considering that, you know, even if this goes through and we snake all the holes and everything, that, you know, the association said they're never going to let you in. So no, we're going to go forward. Okay. So then I'm like, well, daughter, you know, I need to prepare your parents for the trial. Okay. I know you like me to communicate through you, and I know you like, you know, whatever, but I need to kind of talk to them and get them ready and go over documents with them. And go over.
Wait, so at this point, had you also spoken to the parents or one
on the phone? I spoke to them on the phone.
On the phone.
All right. Everything goes through the daughter via email, copied with the parents. So the parents are on all emails, but the daughter is via. So I'm like, look, I got to talk to them. Okay, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to arrange this, okay? Daughter's like, my parents are going to stay in a hotel the night before the trial, and you're going to come meet us there, and we're going to meet in the hotel room and go over everything before the trial. And then the next day, the day of the trial, you're going to come over to the hotel and we're all going to go over to the courthouse as one. And I'm like, let me get this straight. You live in Collier County, but you're going to stay in a hotel in Collier County to go to the courthouse instead of just go? And the daughter's like, yes, my parents really want to be focused on appearing in court, and we're going to stay in the hotel the night before. And that's going to happen. I'm like, okay, all right. So I'm like, okay. So then I get all my stuff ready. I get all my exhibits ready. I do all the pretrial stuff, get everything ready, make sure they're all informed of everything that goes on, get everything ready, good, whatever. So I'm like, okay, well, it's time to meet the parents. And he's like, well, my mother doesn't feel up to it, so we're just going to meet tomorrow morning before the trial. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, I know.
I'm getting nervous about what
I know,
happens.
I know, because I emailed them that they know that this is whatever. But if you, I'm like, this is go time. This is whatever. So then the day of the trial comes, and mind you, the whole time that I'm getting these stream of consciousness emails from the daughter the whole time of various things going on, her takes on life, her takes on things, whatever. And in there's like a little line about the case and then a bunch of crazy
Right.
stuff, whatever, right? The day of the trial, I'm like, okay, I got to go to the hotel, meet them, prepare them the best I can, and then go. And then she emails me. She's like, oh, I'm just going to meet you at the courthouse. My parents are going to come over during when they're needed to testify during the trial. And I'm like, do you really think that's smart? Because, you know, and she's like, yeah, okay. So then I go to the trial.
I'm so scared.
I go to the trial. Okay. The court's there, the bailiff's there, the clerk's there, they're all ready. The other side is there with their attorney, who I get along with, who I have a good relationship with. The father's there, the son's there. The daughter's there with me, but there's no parents. And I again tell the daughter, I'm like, you realize in order to have any kind of chance at this, you're going to have your parents come over, right? She's like, yeah, I know. They're going to be here. I'm like, okay. So then the judge, who's very nice beforehand, is like, and again, the settlement discussions we had beforehand, before we went to trial, was they don't want to sell the property. They just want us to go away. They'll give us money. Okay. So then the judge is like, you know, is there a possibility before we start this jury trial, before I bring up 40 jurors to impanel a trial or to impanel a 6-person jury, that you can talk one last time and try to settle this case? And I'm like, well, Your Honor, I'm always open to settle the case. I'd always rather settle a case than go to trial. And then the daughter is like, okay, we'll try one last time. And so we spend the next hour and a half, instead of starting the trial, of having negotiations from various standpoints. Oh, there's one thing I forgot to tell you in the story. In the sales, in the closing that they were going to do, the parents and the daughter, but the parents as the buyers, they put down like $100,000 as a down payment for the house, for the sale. Okay.
Oh, so that key point. Glad you remembered. That happened like way back when in the beginning with a napkin, unsigned term sheet.
Yes. They put the $100,000 in escrow. Okay. So that's an important point I forgot. So
it's an important point because it makes unsigned term sheet. It's a little bit less crazy. Okay, if they put real money into escrow.
Yeah. So they put the money into escrow so no one could touch it. And so the seller and the son were like, well, if this deal doesn't go through, then we're going to take the escrow money, which is novel theory, but could possibly happen. So then I'm like, okay. So then while we're going through the settlement things, I'm trying to tell the daughter who's there, who's got the parents on the phone and is texting the mom and dad because they're still not there at the courthouse. I tell her, look, you could lose all the money you put into the house and the $100,000, or you could take their deal of them paying you and you walk away. And the daughter's like, no, we really want the house. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, in order to do that, you know, we're going to have to throw all the paradigm out the window of what we've been doing this whole time. And we're going to have to ask the sellers, can we have an arm's length transaction sale for real, not some deal or something, but for the actual value of the house, less your escrow money, and pending the association's approval. So we then discussed this for an hour among all ourselves, and the seller and the seller's son are so sick of my clients that they actually say, sure, we'll do that. So then the daughter gets the approval of the parents on the phone to make the deal. So the deal is made. Okay, and the deal is that they are now going to sign a real sales contract within X amount of days for the market value of the house based on whatever the comps come in at.
Yes.
And they're going to have this sale within 30 days, pending that and pending the association approval. Okay. So I'm like, well, I didn't see that coming. So due to how screwed up this deal is and whatever, and how all these people are, the court makes us write up the 10-page settlement agreement in court right there on our computers, not go back to the office, draft it and sign it or whatever. So that takes us another like hour plus to draft this agreement. Okay. So the agreement's all drafted or whatever. So they print it out, both sides review it, everyone's okay with the agreement. The daughter still has not had the parents come over to the courthouse yet to sign the agreement. So the judge is like, well, I want to hear from the parents. So she gets the parents on the phone, and the judge is like, there's this settlement agreement. The other side is signed. Your daughter has power of attorney to sign for you, but I want to hear from you that you agree to these terms. And they're like, yes, we agree to these terms. So then the daughter uses the power of attorney to sign the agreement. So they've been sight unseen this whole time. The daughter then, on the record, turns to me, shakes my hand, and says, thank you for doing such a great job. Okay, on the record. Court then ends. Okay, the deal is in place. Okay. I tell the daughter, I'm like, look, okay, you now have a real sales contract. You now have a real closing date. You now have a real sales price. You now have real money in escrow. Your issue is that you, daughter, need to not live at the property and need to verify that your parents are actually going to live at the property and not you, because this association said they will never approve this deal if you set foot on that property due to all the problems that you've made in this association. So the daughter agrees. That sounds great. Okay. I speak with the association's attorney who was there because he was ready for the trial. I'm like, who I know from years ago, I know this attorney. And I ask him, I'm like, obviously this person's going to agree they're never going to be there. Okay. Will you give them like a fair yes or no vote based on just the parents? And he's like, yeah, of course we will. I'm like, okay. So then we all break up. We all go back to our offices and homes, and he goes and picks up his parents at the hotel, or she goes and picks up her parents at the hotel. And we all go back. All the contracts are signed and everything. And the daughter starts an email campaign threatening the association that unless they approve the deal for her parents, she will have them sue the association in federal court for civil rights violations and various other crazy ideas. So then the association attorney turns to me and he's like, this woman sent me this crazy email threatening me and my clients. And like, you're their attorney. Get a hold of them. I'm like, yo. I'm like, I'm trying to. I don't know what's going on. So essentially, we have 30 days to now get this deal done for real, okay? They go and they allegedly get a loan for the parents from a bank that's approved. They get all the title work and everything ready to go. And the parents are to be interviewed by the board of directors for approval. And so the parents come in and the daughter doesn't show up in person, but starts emailing the board of directors directly, their attorney, their management company, and threatening all of them that they need to say yes to her parents moving in. Otherwise, she's going to sue them all in federal court for some kind of discrimination and civil rights violations and stuff like that. So the board is like, we don't need to deal with this person. Well, what the hell's going on here? So, and the attorney's like, they don't want to deal with these people. They're, whatever. I don't want to use the term nuts, but they may have said that. And so
they probably said much worse things that you are not saying in this.
They're like, thumbs down, man. This deal's not going through. We don't want anything to do with these people. They're deranged, man. Like, they're emailing us individually, threatening us. Or I should say the daughter's emailing us individually, threatening us. The daughter's emailing their attorney, threatening them. The daughter's emailing their management company, threatening them. What happens is the daughter sees that the deal is falling apart and starts to go off on her own. The daughter starts emailing, in addition to the people who I just said, the daughter starts emailing my opposing counsel who represents the old man and the son. And then the daughter emails the old man and the son as well, all different emails, threatening all of them, saying that they're going to sue them for civil rights violations and all kinds of stuff and whatever. And she emails them maybe 5 to 15 times a day, all this stuff. And so they all come to me and they're all like, what's going on with your client? I'm like, whoa. I'm like, this is all not I don't know what's going on here or whatever. I'm like, you realize you're going to blow this deal and you're going to lose your money because you're threatening all these people. They agreed to give you a fair vote on moving in and you're threatening them all. She continues to threaten everyone. She even emails the court, okay, the judge, to say that.
You threatened the judge?
Yeah, to email the judge saying that this is, whatever. This is not what we agreed to. All of a sudden, it's not what they agreed to. This is what she starts saying now. And that this is unfair and that the association is being unfair and all that. And I'm like, whoa. I'm like, I have written confirmation of what we agreed to. We have a court record of when we were in court of what we agreed to. And that's what you agreed to. And everyone asked you 50 times, is that what you agreed to? You said yes, whatever. So needless to say, things start going downhill very quick, okay? The daughter is emailing all these people, threatening all these people 15 times a day, threatening them with now bar grievances for attorneys, bar grievances for the opposing attorney, the association attorney, threatening RICO actions, threatening all kinds of things. And remember, she claims that she's a non-resident and whatever. So then the association trespasses her from the association during this.
What does it mean to trespass someone? I only know it as a noun.
Because she's not a resident with rental property.
So they don't let her into the lands of the community.
So in the HOA, they had the police issue her a trespass that said she's no longer allowed there. And if she shows up there, she'll be arrested next time. So needless to say, guess what? She still shows up there, but she doesn't get caught. So the situation totally goes out of control. I'm like, I tell them, look, man, I'm like, you've stirred up a hornet's nest here. Your best goal is to either, disassociate yourself from your daughter, go get this vote, yes or no, from the association and go forward from there, or just get your money back and go to another house, man. I mean, there's houses all over the place. That was like too far for the daughter. And then the daughter turned on me for me saying that to her parents and starts threatening me with like, you're terrible, can't believe you did this, can't believe, whatever, this isn't what we asked for, yada, yada, yada. And so the daughter starts emailing me like 50 times a day. And stream of consciousness is telling me how horrible I am and how I got them in this situation and all this crazy stuff. So I'm like, all right, I tell my referral source who referred me this case, I'm like, they've gone overboard and, I'm going to have to withdraw from this case because they're threatening me now personally and saying whatever. So then he's like, I understand. He's like, I apologize. I had no idea they're like this. And I'm like, let me show you some emails that they sent me. And so I sent him some of the emails. He's like, oh God, I'm sorry. I can never make this up to you, whatever. So then I'm like, all right, I file a motion of withdrawal citing irreconcilable differences. I withdraw from the case. The sale gets continued another 60 days before I withdraw. Okay. I give them all the advice. I tell them what to do, yada, yada, yada. They don't do it. I get a call from another attorney who wants to come in and take over the case. And I'm like, new attorney. I'm like, why don't you do yourself a service and just call the opposing counsel and ask them what they have to say about this case? I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to bias you one way. I'm like, why don't you just call the other attorneys and see what they have to say? I'm not going to say yes, sir. I'm just telling whatever files you need, whatever things you need, I'm here. I gave them all to them, sent it all over. I sent it all over to the daughter and to the parents. So needless to say, the new attorney appears and files a new lawsuit against the association for civil rights discrimination and all kinds of other crazy stuff, and then sues the father and the son again, for this time for intentionally blowing up the deal. That case goes on, or those cases go on as of today, 4 years later. And I was sent for every day for probably a year, threatening emails from the daughter. Like, borderline, like I could go get like a restraining order against her, but like, whatever, of just threatening me, threatening to come to my office, threatening to come to my house, saying I abused her elderly parents, just all kinds of crazy stuff. So I'm just like, whatever. And then one day they stopped and I'm like, hey, that's pretty weird that
you kind of missed it.
That they stopped. I'm like, I wonder what's going on. So I do a little digging and I look in the adjacent counties' court filings, and I see that they all were sued by another neighbor in the neighborhood for like aggravated stalking and like assault and battery or something. And they lost because they didn't appear at a jury trial, and they got a verdict against them for $1 million against my former clients for like $1 million. And due to the fact that they didn't comply with any court orders or anything, the daughter has an arrest warrant out for her. in this other case, and that's why she disappeared, because she went underground because she was wanting anyone to find her. And that arrest warrant is still out there right now. And
Wow.
so needless to say, I have distanced myself as best possible from that case, even though obviously I don't think I did anything wrong. I did exactly what they wanted to do, whatever. The old people, they just wound up moving to a new rental, is what I found out.
In the same community?
In a different community, because they wouldn't allow them to rent in the same community because they banned them and they trespassed the daughter.
Yeah.
So they moved to another community. They're still fighting over the deposit money, this even 4 years later. And they're still fighting with the association for their discrimination stuff. And it's still going on today. I see from just looking at the document, I see they've gone through 3 other sets of attorneys. In addition to the one who called me up on the phone, wanted to know about the case, they've gone through 3 sets of attorneys. And, it's a lesson learned. I mean, my takeaway from that is, as much as my referral source was very trusted and still is very trusted, whatever, you still have to do due diligence in reviewing these referrals to you, because even if someone else vouches for them, normally that's a pretty good screening method or a clearance method, but it's still not good enough. And I've also said, even though I do real estate litigation, I'm not going to do it outside of a commercial setting anymore because of situations like this. I'm not dealing with, control figures over other clients or whatever. Either I have a personal relationship with my client, or I should say a business relationship with my client directly, or I don't represent you. I don't have a proxy that I go through, even though it's legal and whatever. I go through you personally. So these are all things that I've changed over the last 4 years that I've learned from. And, it's made things less stressful. I mean, have I lost out on making some money? Yeah. But can I, quote unquote, sleep at night? Yeah, I can. Do I enjoy not seeing totally batshit crazy emails in my inbox every day? Yes, I do. All right. Do I enjoy not seeing emails from other attorneys saying your client threatened me or kid threatened me or whatever? Yes, I do enjoy not seeing those. So it was a case where, in theory, if everything was right, a little weird, but it was a viable case. But it was just the personalities were just nuts, particularly the daughter, who was just totally unhinged and out of control, and now has an arrest warrant out against her.
Wow. So this is an incredible story. It's been a bit different than every other client horror story episodes, because usually we analyze it from your point of view as it unwinds, but this is such an intense story. I felt like I was watching a movie. Maybe you should sell the movie rights.
Man, listen, if I put all the details in there, there's no Netflix or Amazon studio that would even gamble on how crazy the story is. If I threw in all the, names to be changed to protect the innocent, or if I put in all the details, I just, one of the main things too is that I'm glad that they never had my personal cell phone number. It's one of my great things, because otherwise I would have had to change my cell phone based on the number of emails that I got. And luckily I put them in my spam filter, and like I said, they stopped showing up. But one of the great things, that's why I don't give clients my cell phone number. You can call me all the time you want in the office. I'll return your calls, whatever. But for that kind of reason, because I found out one of the other things, the daughter found out the other attorney's cell phone numbers and started sending the same deranged stream of consciousness emails via text message to the opposing counsel and to the association's counsel as well. And so I'm like, well, good thing I didn't do that. But yeah, those are it's definitely some interesting stuff. Definitely learned a lot. Definitely learned a lot of control practices and business practices from that case.
So I think there's an important skill of learning to detect crazy early on before it starts. So one thing that I'm left learning is based on your this intense experience with this very crazy woman. If they're now thing like little details that you notice, you're like, that's a warning sign. This other person is likely to be crazy.
Yeah, no, that's 100% true. If they act as a control figure for someone else, that's an automatic red flag right there. I'll drop that case. I don't want to go near it, because that's a layer that I don't need between me and my client. It's some kind of handler or control figure. So that's a indicator of bad news right there. And then obviously the stream of consciousness whacked out emails is obviously huge, that's a double, triple, quadruple red flag right there. So, from now on, if someone emails me something like stream of consciousness, what the hell is that? Look, that's another red flag right there where I'm like, this isn't for me.
Question. Do you think that in retrospect, I'll rephrase my question differently. Something I've learned in my experience is I've never dealt with anyone that crazy, but half crazy. And to me, as soon as I take on a client, when I start, and let's say I miss the red flags and they start being crazy, I now cut it early and run run early, retelling the story and reliving it. Do you now think, okay, if this happened again today, and let's say you missed those red flags, were there various other points where you say, you should leave early at different possible points?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, the thing that obscured the initial red flags was the fact that this came from such a trusted referral source and was vouched for, which is what put down my guard initially and let them get in. So now that guard is up. I don't care. I don't care if my mom or my dad call me up and refer me. So I'm like, whoa. I gotta, vetting it out and checking it. I don't care who's sending it over. Okay.
Maybe from your parents, you doubly check it.
Yeah, exactly. But no, definitely. And then definitely, one of the things as an attorney, obviously you owe a duty to your clients and, all that kind of stuff. You can't leave them in a bad position and all kinds of all kinds of, rules of professional responsibility and ethics and everything that you got to follow. But at the same time, there's a certain degree of self-preservation that goes into it where, I have a certain amount of dignity and a right to exist and I don't need to be abused by someone. So, yes, I can get out of a matter early now if they initially get in and then show that they're whatever. So
I also think another red flag worth mentioning isn't for you, but for the attorneys that came after you. There's the one that contacted you, and then you said there were 3 others after that.
Yeah.
Something I found is as a digital marketer, often when I'm considering taking on a client, I'll ask them, tell me about the previous firms you've worked with. And when they've had gone through a series of other people before me, and oh my God, 4 in the last 4 years, and every single one was a nightmare. It might be that the problems, not all 4 firms are terrible, but it might be this company.
Correct. And that's something that holds more true today probably than it did prior to this situation is that, I've taken over cases from attorneys before, and I've had, for whatever reason, attorneys take over cases from me before. Right. And it's something that happens in the legal field. But there's also, where there's smoke, there's fire. So, I mean, obviously, if someone's jumping around, there's a reason why they're jumping around. If there's a reason why someone withdrew, there's a reason why they withdrew. And that's always got to be taken into your intake process, is you got to factor that in. And I think, I don't know what kind of problems these people have had with their successor attorneys, but obviously there are, because they all withdrew. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's an interesting situation I still, kind of try to keep tabs on it every once in a while to see what's happening.
I can tell something when you have a really intense relationship with someone, good or bad, even long after the fact, you're like, wow, how did it ever turn out?
Yeah.
With that person.
So it's true. I mean, like I said, you got an arrest warrant out and $1 million judgment in another case and some other stuff going on. So I guess it was them, not me.
Wow. Well, this was an incredible story. Hopefully, the Netflix series is coming soon. You should contact your agent. And it really reinforces the lesson that some people are just crazy. I've had about 70 episodes of Client Horror Stories so far, and a lot of episodes deal with minorly bad people, sometimes with really bad people. But here it doesn't seem that they're bad so much as just batshit insane.
Yes.
And
yeah.
And
totally insane.
Totally insane. And I think as like not insane people, we kind of think that like there really aren't insane people, or something you see in the movies, or something you don't deal with, like 1 out of a trillion on the other side of the country.
Yeah.
But like there are insane people there, and there are sometimes people you will work with, client, hire, and we need to train ourselves to notice the red flags before we get into a real relationship with them. See the other set of red flags once you're in the relationship, and then have the internal strength to turn down the money that they'll pay you to say, they've crossed a red line, I'm outies.
Yeah, no, it's true.
And I think this is a good parting wisdom and summation of the lessons of red flag detection before, after, and cutting it, that we can take away from the story. Matthew, this was an incredible story. I think it goes up in the top 5 episodes ever, and I hope I never have to deal with people that crazy. And congratulations for not going crazy yourself.
Thank you, Morgan. I appreciate it, and I'm glad I made it out in one piece. Knock on wood.
And you've lived to now share the story with the world via Client Horror Stories. And everyone that's watching to the end of the episode, thank you for making it so far in this horror podcast.